Loma Land, featuring saltwater swimbaits at the Point Loma kelp beds. After each bass fishing trip, I review and analyze my waypoint data and plot it on a map. I translate this data into a series of information graphics to better visualize it. Then, it is easier at a glance to see patterns emerging in bass behavior. When fishing swim baits in the kelp, it's all about boat positioning. I try to line up with the edge of the kelp and make long casts along that line. The tighter you are, the better. Any calico bass hiding in the kelp canopy will dart out and ambush your swim bait. The first pattern that emerged came off an inside section of kelp where I would position the bow of the boat facing north with the cross current laying the kelp down parallel to my cast. I am fishing the DRT Tiny Klash with the wide lip V-tail mode. I would crank the swim bait down first and then begin a super erratic stop and go cadence. This would draw the bass out from the kelp canopy, and after I got them following the swim bait, I could then get them to commit and bite it on the pause. When fishing in heavy kelp cover, there are a lot of submerged kelp stringers 2 to 3 feet below the surface. I like casting across these stringers with the tiny Klash because with the wide lip in, the TK deflects well off the kelp and doesn't get snagged like other treble hook swim baits. I also get more bites in these zones because the bass like to ambush and pin the bait against the kelp stringer. When I pull up to a new section of kelp, I always start on the outside leading edge. I nose my boat right into the kelp and do a series of fan casts starting closest to the stringer and then working my way out into open water. I got lucky on my first cast and stuck a nice calico halfway through my retrieve. I vary my retrieve speed and cadence to make the tiny Klash swim as erratic as possible. I do a series of 2 to 3 reel handle turns and try to mix it up with a few half reel handle turns. Then I do short pauses to get any bass following it to react. Another pattern that emerged on multiple trips this season was pulling my skiff deep into the middle of the kelp and fishing small pockets and narrow lanes. My two biggest bass this season came off the same waypoint and kelp stringer 2 weeks apart. I think the bigger calico bass guard these premier ambush spots and push the smaller bass out. The conditions were perfect a few weeks later to fish the same waypoint and kelp section. I had an incoming tide with heavy marine layer and sheet glass conditions to keep the swimbait in the strike zone longer. I made a long cast along the edge of the kelp stringer and the calico crushed it right at the boat, almost in the exact same ambush spot. I was super stoked to connect the dots and be able to pattern these two swimbait bass. Conditions change as the morning marine layer slowly burns off and it's time to make a move and adjust the game plan. Usually in the afternoon when the wind picks up and the current is ripping, I stop fighting against the conditions and just submit to them. I navigate my 14-foot skiff deep into the heart of the kelp forest. With weedless swimbaits, I completely switch up my approach and change my target cast to now embrace the kelp versus avoiding it. Most of my hits are from bass ambushing the swimbait either right after the kelp, where I bring the swimbait into open water, or right before the swimbait goes into the kelp. This bass was fooled by the working class Zero Citizen 7. Even though this is a bigger, taller bait profile, my hookup ratio greatly improved this season due to key design features Mike crafted into the swimbait. For saltwater bass, what I noticed is they would dart out from the kelp at full speed and headshot the bait, pinning it against the edge of the kelp. This swimbait compresses well when the calico bass hit it, exposing the large owner beast style hook that it was designed around. I watched this bass follow the working class Zero Citizen 6 all the way up to the edge of the kelp where she ambushed it inches before it got away. In the end, tracking bass behavior through field notes, information graphics, and cameras helped me better interpret and understand my time on the water.